Hey, this is a video for those who are working on their rear drum brakes for their Chevy Trackers. Mine's a 2000 Chevy Tracker. You can see it here. And yeah, so this was a much bigger job than I thought it was going to be when I got into it. And for me, it's not done yet, but this is kind of the critical stage, kind of the hump that I seem to have passed. Um, yeah, I thought this was going to be like a day job, and it's been like a week of waiting for parts, and it took me 2 days to just get the actual drums off because I've never changed. I'm not a mechanic. Um, I'm learning as I go, and so left these shoes way too long to be until I got around to changing them, and so they were way overexpanded, and they were actually holding the drum on, like catching on the lip. Um, and so you might know if you're in the process of changing your rear drum shoes that the axle is in the way of you being able to do this job. It seems like a lot of people on the internet um, have been using the method of just like going like trying to work around the rotor. I don't know if I'm using the right word for rotor, but the thing that has the bolts that connect to the wheels, because they have little cutouts. So technically you could do this job without, but another guy took his axle out, so that's what I did. I don't know if that's wise. I think the whole idea of reinstalling the axle, including potentially apparently I need to replace the axle seal, so that'll be fun. But in any case, this is what I did, and I'm glad I did it at least for my own learning, even if it's created more work for me. But yeah, I was just not interested in trying to figure this out with the axle in the way. In any case, I'm going to tell you the order of operations that I took in order to reinstall these properly. Um, because nobody, as far as I can tell, went through that process. A, B, C, D. What are the steps? They just sort of showed like this is what it looks like installed. So, first off, just imagine that nothing was on here, and I just had these two shoes just sort of loose, and then all these pieces that came in the kit. And by the way, this spring did not come in the kit, so I don't know if that's just because it's a superfluous, like unnecessary thing. But the other guy who I saw a video of, he said that his kit didn't come with it either. So save your this spring. Um, yeah, so I did, and I reused it. But anyway, so it was just one, two, three, four springs and then these retaining springy things that my kit came with. Um, and it's recommended. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely like degraded over the time that they've spent on here. Anyways, with these two shoes loose, what I did was I'm gonna try and give a bit of a wider angle here. So there's a pin here that's connected to here, like this gold that you see here and this gold that you see here is one piece, and that is that's a piece that's connected to this cable, and this cable runs over here. That's for the emergency brake. So when the emergency brake gets pulled, this whole thing gets pulled too. It pivots around this point. So you use this little retaining ring thing that also comes in the kit. Um, and yeah, I don't know exactly how all this works. It's sort of, I think basically it sort of pushes this here. I don't know how it all works when it's actually working, but what I'm here to tell you is about how you assemble it. So this pin goes through here. Use this little retaining thing. This little wire thing connects to up here to the top end of this lever. If you're taking yours apart, you'll see it's pretty obvious how it connects. It's just there's a little hook on the metal, and then you kind of pull the spring back, and it hooks over the cable here, and it just sort of stays together. It's pretty intuitive. So, but anyways, you just, when this is off the vehicle, that's when you assemble this part and then connect the cable. And then from there, you can mount this shoe on this side using this pin. Goes through a hole in the back of the backing plates, comes in. I used a vice grip just to grip this really well, and then I put my finger on the opposite side of the pin and pushed it and then twisted it just to get this retaining clip attached. You can buy specialty tools. There's a guy who has on YouTube has a great rundown of like a 25-minute video on just generally how to use specialty tools to attach all these things, although he also gives alternative recommendations for how to do that. I used his recommendations and then also just like found ways to do it myself with a lot of these. But yeah, so anyways, this shoe went on with the retaining clip. It just sort of holds on there, nestles in here nicely. My brake cylinder was overexpanded because of the whole thing of the fact that I hadn't changed my brake shoes in so long. So I had to bleed my brake line a little bit just to be able to compress them in. If you're not familiar, this works on hydraulics, and it pushes here when you press the brake pad down, and therefore pushes the shoes against the inside of the drum, which is not attached right now. Before I forget about it, these silver bits here, you'll see three sort of protruding spots like this. One here, I think one here, and one here when the shoes are off. And those are spots that basically the shoes make contact with the back of the backing plate. And so you're supposed to sort of clean those off and make sure you got like a thin amount of anti-seize on there. This is what I used, anti-seize. Should probably put that cap back on. Yes, and where was I? So then you can do the same thing on this side, this shoe. Use this retaining clip, put it on that side. And I think that as I was doing that, I put this other metal piece in. It sort of hooks into that. Actually, okay, so this one that I'm pointing to right here sort of like runs the length kind of behind this shoe. It has two pins that come through this brake shoe. One is here and one is here. And this pin is the pin that this piece of metal sort of hooks over. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to describe how each of these things works, but I'm just trying to give you a basic overview of how they each kind of fit together. So I put this one in first. And then I think I did this one next. So this one for me was totally seized up. I'm not sure how important it is that it's seized up, but yeah, this little cam here, I guess. So this right, okay, I'll zoom in. This little piece of metal here with these teeth, it's connected via this pivot point, that little thing that the spring's attached to this piece of metal. So it's all one piece, and then this spring connects that to that, and basically it can this cam here can shift one way or the other. I don't know by what actions. I assume it has to do with the emergency brake in some way. but it was completely seized up. So this cam was just like fixed in position. So I had to use a whole bunch of WD-40 and brake parts cleaner to knock that loose, and then reinstall the new spring. But basically, yeah, after putting this one on, I said that has these two pins. Then I hooked this one around behind, so it went in there. I think I had to pull the shoe forward a little bit to be able to get that in there. And then it also slots into this emergency brake piece here. And then that's when I attached this spring that was the leftover one from the last shoes. So it goes through here, and there's kind of a weird shape to this end of this spring here that doesn't look like it should hook on properly, but I guess it does to that hole. And then this purple one, I don't remember if I attached this purple one before or after I put this one in, but I think it's not such a big detail. I think you'll be able to figure that out as you go. I really don't know how you'd be able to do all this with the axle in the way, but people have done it apparently. I don't know. Everyone in the videos who said they did it that way seemed extremely frustrated that they went through it. So this is what I've done. Okay, so from there, I think that from there, I'm just gonna sit down a little bit lower. From there, I think I left this one right here till last. And I think what I did was I put this one back here on. It's sort of the long end of either of these is facing outwards. And yeah, I don't remember if I did this spring first or this one. So sorry about that, not remembering. But I don't think it's so critical. I think it's just sort of at this point, once everything's on, it's sort of like you're at these last few steps. It's sort of just kind of what makes sense. But one thing for me, again, a reminder, I wasn't able to put this spring on until I bled the brake lines a little bit and compressed these hydraulics, because then these have to be, the top of the shoes have to be pressed in far enough, excuse me, that's, that it's actually possible to pull this spring to be able to hook over here and here. This pawl right here, this last piece, then it hooks over there, just sort of fits loosely there. And then this spring goes in there. Yeah, if I'll describe briefly the basics of how I understand things to work, and I might be wrong, but I think most of it I'll be able to be right about, just so you have an understanding of the mechanics. And if you're struggling to get yours off, actually I don't know how much I'll be able to help you with that, but hopefully my rambling is not too rambly. So basically, when you press on the brake pedal, these expand outwards. They push against these points at the top of the brake shoes. Obviously, there's this spring that's used to just keep it in compression so that it doesn't fucking fall out. Meanwhile, the brake, the drums of the drum brakes will be hovering over like this, and so they have the surface on them that these brake shoes will press against when pushed outward by the hydraulics. And furthermore, this pawl, which is the part of this ratcheting mechanism here, it moves outwards like this, so that when I don't fully understand in this moment how this mechanism works, but basically, okay, yeah. So this piece back here, it's like three pieces. There's this piece which has a tube on the inside, then there's this piece with the ratchet teeth, and it's sort of just like a little ring with threads on the inside. And then there's this piece, and it's kind of got um, like a threaded rod that both, this toothed section spins on like a nut, and then also the rest of that spring, the rest of that bolt-like end of this piece goes into the tube of this one and kind of rotates freely in there. So when you press the hydraulics out, it extends um, it expands these two pieces here, but the pawl is still making contact with the teeth here. So basically, it's causing the toothed ring here to twist, or to stay in place rather. And because this section is getting pulled out and this section is getting pulled out, essentially the action is that the threaded bolt thing here gets spun, get ratchets, and this threaded rod sort of moves further this way. So as basically, short of it is that the this whole, I'm gonna use my fingers here to try and point out, this whole section here expands over time, and that's because the amount of brake material you have on here to wear, it will, wear out slowly on the when rubbing against the um, inside of the drums. And so it's like a pencil eraser. It'll run thinner. It means that these need to expand further to accommodate. And so that's what this mechanism does. So hopefully that wasn't too crazy of an explanation, but the point is, a lot of different drum brake manufacturers, or like the setup for them, they have little cutouts in the drums or on the backing plate where you can kind of reach through and push this part of the ratchet out of the way, and then rotate this whole section, like this whole thing, the opposite way that it would normally ratchet, so as to loosen and shorten the distance here, so that the spring pulls these two tops of the brake shoes back together, so that it's not overexpanded, so that you can pull the drum brake off. The tracker, my version of it anyways, does not have a cutout like that. And furthermore, my hydraulics were extended all the way and were not really compressible. So I was doubly fucked, and it just hung on the drum brake. I did a whole lot of prying in order to get this stuff off. I was trying to be as careful as I could to just not like fuck up any of the pieces, and I think I did a pretty good job overall. But yeah, it was a bit sketchy at times. Hopefully everything functions well when I get it back together, but I guess that's just a lesson in terms of learning what needs to be maintained before it gets to a worst case scenario kind of thing. But yeah, what else? Given that I took the axle out, I just used some random bolts I had laying around just to hold this backing plate on until I get the axle back on. I'm just trying to think what other details I would have wanted to know before doing this. I think that if you have watched this video, I've given a lot of detail, filled in a lot of gaps that other people didn't fill in, and there's enough Chevy Tracker or Suzuki Vitara videos out there that if I miss something, you'll be able to like track other information down. So I wish you success with it, and yeah, probably also just a good idea to cross-reference other videos just to make sure I didn't say anything out of school, because I'm not a mechanic, and hopefully I didn't do anything totally wrong, and I'm not. So if you notice something that you think is wrong, please comment on the video so that I can correct it for myself, but also so that I can either amend the video or take it down in case it's just like wrong. But I think I did about as good as I could have done here. So okay, the last thing I'll say is just in terms of the brake lines, bleeding the brakes. I think I'm probably gonna bleed the brakes after this. It's something that's just recommended to be done. So just generally, I'm recommending that you do that yourself. It doesn't seem to be too big of a deal to do it, so you can look up how to do that. I'll probably also change the differential fluid, because, or the gear oil, whatever I don't know if it's called one or the other or both, but that seems to be a thing that needs to be done regularly too. So anyways, I wish you well, and that's it. Bye.